The penultimate session for today focuses on what kind of influencer works for your brand. And joining this panel discussion are Archana Arora, founder director at Ants Digital, Harini Kucknoor, assistant general manager for communications at TVS Motor, Jasrita Dhir, head of marketing and communications at Antara Senior Care, Manan Shah, Director Marketing for India and Southeast Asia at Truecaller, and Naina Aggarwal Ahuja, Founder and COO at Talking Point Communications. Moderating this panel is Pradeep Wadhwa, Founder and Principal at Critical Edge Consulting. Over to you, Pradeep.
Thanks, Anubhuti, and welcome to all the panelists. Nano, micro, or macro, what kind of influencers work for your brand? So that's like a conundrum because one has to choose one type of influencers over others, which is never an easy task. So while the others join in, let me just dive right in with first question to Harini. Harini, what has been your experience with nano, micro, and macro influencers, and how do you basically slot in terms of importance nano, micro, and macro influencers for your particular brand?
Yeah. Thank you, Pradeep. So I represent TVS Motor Company from the two-wheeler side of the business. So our experience has been that, we started the whole influencer engagement from a PR side. We were one of the very early adopters. Say we started sometime in 2013-14 itself. So we have built this, a panel of evangelists or brand associates who have been with us for so long. So Pradeep, to answer your question, it is not one set of influencers that meets all our expectations. So and we do come with a set, set of products across range, and also products that compete against each other, probably in the same target audience, geographies, and probably the price point as well. So it is a whole set of influencers that we would be targeting at. So what has worked, it's a mix of everything. But largely, when it comes to certain kind of brands, it is the micro and nano that has given us a lot of results. If I have to give you an example, during the we just had this movement from BS4 to BS6. It was a regulatory change of emissions that happened way back in 2020. So right in the middle of COVID, and so that is when I think we really got into working with the nano and the micro set of influences. So and it has really given us a lot of results. Why nano would really work is because of the kind of connect that they have with the audiences. While if you're looking at reach, yes, the macro would work, but then nano is where you will really have this impact, and it is the right set of audience that you're reaching it to. So that's been our experience, and we have had like multiple influencer led programs that we have done. What is very significant is mostly it has been completely editorial run. I'm not saying that there's absolutely no monies that I've spent, but then largely it is editorial driven. So and one thing that has really worked for us, Pradeep, is building on this aspiration bit whole thing. So when you approach the nano influencers also, a lot of times they have not had an opportunity to say ride on a track, or at the effort at making them a better rider, all those things. So when we bring them onto our ambit, we get them to ride on the track, and we have a influencer program there also, which is called Young Media Racer Program. So we give them an opportunity to ride and learn the nuances of better being a better rider. So that really works for us. and that has helped us to kind of build an army or brand friends who have helped us, and and that's how I think we have been able to manage the entire program.
Thanks, Harini. That was quite an insightful speech from you. So, moving on to Manan. Manan, the same question. I'm just repeating that for your benefit. What has been your experience with influencer marketing, and where do you slot nano, micro, and macro in terms of the importance? Which type of influencers work for you? So I'm going to be moving around the panel and you will give each panelist around 3 minutes to answer this question, because we want to also move to other questions as well. So from the client side, this question, and then I'll move to Archana and Naina to ask another question. Over to you, Manan.
Thanks, Pradeep. So just a quick introduction. I head marketing for Truecaller in India and Southeast Asia now. Pradeep, honestly, we've had a sort of a love-hate relationship when it comes to influencer marketing. Sometimes it has helped us. Sometimes it's, been like, why did I spend that money? And I'll tell you why. We've basically tried, all formats and all sizes of influencers, micro, nano, all of them. And for different campaigns, they've worked. In some cases, they've not worked in some cases. And when I say not worked in some cases, what I mean is sometimes it's very difficult to educate certain influencers, especially being a tech brand, educating them on how to use that feature, or help them understand how that feature can, or what is the benefit of using that feature. Sometimes it becomes a little difficult. Also, they just have and this is something that's across all the three categories, but most difficult when you're working with macro influencers, because controlling the narrative sometimes becomes very difficult for us, because they want to do their thing, they want to maintain their own consistency and their own their own way of talking about things, which is great, because you want to have that creative freedom and you want your content to look like what other things that they've done. But sometimes it becomes a little difficult, especially, like I said, when it's a tech product. But honestly, like I said, it's all about getting the right narrative out, and also managing your expectations when you're working with different categories of influencers. But yeah, I think there's a lot that this category has yet to do in terms of evolving and actually becoming a bigger segment for us to use in terms of marketing.
Yeah, I'll prod you a little bit more here. So you haven't really answered the question that which type of influencers work better for your brand.
For us, like I said, I think for certain campaigns, like we've done in the past, whether it's a Chota SMS campaign, which is a sort of a smart SMS feature that we've added. We worked with bigger influencers like the Jordanians, and results have been pretty great. But at the same time, certain other bigger influencers that we've worked with, we've had difficulties in terms of getting the message through with them, or even having great integration into their into their current narrative or the current styling for products like ours. So I think for what I've been mostly comfortable is with sort of micro influencers, not nano, because they give me a great reach, yet it is easier to work with them. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, absolutely, it does. Thank you so much. Moving to Jasrita. Jasrita, the same question, but with a twist. How do you see this, your type of field, which is, I don't know whether to call it CSR marketing or, social marketing, if I may call it. How does the world of influencer is different? How does it work differently for your type of industry?
Right. Thank you, Pradeep. So first off, I think, I represent Antara Senior Care, which is part of the Max Group. It's a $4 billion conglomerate which has interests in healthcare, in life insurance, and yes, we do have a CSR arm, which is the Max India Foundation. But Antara Senior Care represents the senior living and the assisted care industry. So it is not CSR per se, right? Now, I think my segue into telling what sort of influencers work and what sort of influencer marketing works for this industry is right by how little understood this industry is, right? So, senior living is a niche industry. It's a very nascent industry in India. The concept of seniors choosing to have a lifestyle which is equivalent to even better than what they have had in like-minded communities is a fairly new concept to India, especially north of India and central India, and at a premium and at a price point that we operate. Coming to assisted care, assisted care is even further, if I could say, just taking about baby steps in the country, right? Because we are not a mainstream player, because we do not have footprint all across the country, and because the industry itself is in its stages of infancy, therefore micro and nano influencers work for us, right? Mega is certainly not a fitment for us, and we haven't experimented so much with macro influencers. With micro and nano, we have had a very good experience because these are people who have good, sort of in-depth relationship with their audience. They have good engagement rates with the communities that they have, and therefore, both in terms of relevance or in terms of resonance with the brand, our experience has been very good with both nano and micro influencers.
Great. Thank you, Jasrita. Moving now to Archana. Archana, what kind of trends have you seen the last couple of years? Do brands want to move away from mega to micro or macro, or vice versa, or there is no change? It remains the same. And what type of trends in this influencer segment do you see?
No, I I certainly feel that it has been similar. I don't. It was always the trust was more for some years. It has been more on the micro and the nano influences, and it continues to be so for various reasons. Also, one being this industry is not regulated. One of the panelists mentioned that this industry is still evolving, influencers, so to say, and there is no way one can really measure the effectiveness, so to say. There are so many questions on that itself, and plus the influencers, the very big influencers, the kind of monies that they ask, not many brands want to afford, and therefore they all want to experiment with the smaller ones. And I feel like there is an advantage to doing that also, because you get a separate set of audience with each influencer. You're not trying to sort of reach out to the same set of audience with one big influencer, where people are following celebrities for a different reason, and not really they do not. I think Jasrita mentioned that they do not have this connect, and possibly these smaller influencers have some sort of a connect and they also take their time to make that content, and they will post it on their story, and they will post it on their feed, and they will talk about it. They're willing to go that extra mile to talk about the association with a brand or something that they believe in, a little more than what the deal would look like. Okay, this one post costs that much, whether or not it is giving you any result. So I feel like the trend has always been on the micro and the nano side, because you're able to reach a different audiences, even if you're talking about the same segment, but you're able to have different set of audiences being reached with different
Yeah.
influences.
Archana, do you see this trend becoming more and more in favor of micro and nano, or uh, in the future? How do you
100%,
see it?
100%. So I do feel like this industry itself is going great guns, and it is evolving for the same reason that we were talking about so many ways of marketing, but the thing that we're talking about now is business to human. The whole bit of humanizing and the whole bit of connection building is becoming so much more important. So you want to reach out to your niche audiences, and you want to reach out to smaller groups, so to say. So I certain, it's like you talk to what, so many people with one kind of messaging. Vis-a-vis, you let the influencer, like Manan mentioned, that it is difficult to educate someone about a tech product, but once done, the way he is going to, talk about the product, and the way his audiences, the influencers audience will connect with the influencers conversation, content, post, whatever, is going to be so much more different than the brand itself talking about it. So which is what we want to create, the evangelism bit that we want to carry forward. And therefore I feel like this trend will continue, it will become bigger. The only thing is that we need to bring a lot of regulation, a lot of measurement to what is being done. So brands are willing to put that money, they are willing to try out new influences, but as long as they are able to see genuine results. And I'm putting a little reiteration on the word genuine, because we need to measure, we need to rule out, we need to use technology, we need to be able to have products which are able to figure out the right amount of following. And if I will also go ahead and say that following is not the thing to go after. But there are so many other ways to check out if the influencer is going to be really, really useful for the brand or not.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thanks, Archana. Thank you. Over to you, Naina. Do you agree with what Archana said, or do you see any different types of trends?
So just a quick introduction. I run Talking Point Communications, which is an integrated communications house. So we have PR, digital films, production, content, everything together. So, and I'm also on the other side. So I'm the trustee of an NGO called Heartcare Foundation of India. So I understand from both sides, right? As a part of the NGO, of course, we've used these tools, and as an agency, we've implemented those. So one thing that feel is most important while engaging with influencers or going out digitally is the content that we are going out with, right? Irrespective of what influencer category we go after, if we are not using the right storytelling tools, if you're not using the right content, whether it's someone with a following base of 500 or it's 5 million, we're not going to have the right kind of impact. So I think what's most important is to iron out the strategy that says, okay, this is exactly what we're going out with. What is going to be the resonance of this with our audience? So again, even 10 people are important in today's day and age, right? And we've seen that over the past 2 years of the pandemic. Everything is word of mouth. So that's where the influence of your nano and your micro influencers is increasing much more, is because you're trusting, for instance, face masks, any of the code products. If someone was saying that they've used it and they've tried it, you would trust that much more than just reading about it. And we've seen this change over the years, right? Where just traditional PR was the demand to, films and content in innovative ways, something that is engaging, all of that is much more in demand. There is a significant shift to how much is going online and how much engagement is happening with influencers. We've had instances with clients where all kinds of influencers have been engaged. So for a brand like Sarva, which had Malaika Arora as a part of it, which had Jennifer Lopez as a part of it, their own network of mega influencers was so strong that any campaign that they used to do would go to 200 million people. So there it was just mega influencers versus we've seen over the years. I mean, 8 years ago, I remember doing this for Big Basket, and we were trying our luck, right? What kind of, where do we send our products, and what do we do, and who do we send it to? Versus now, so it's really about getting to the right message. It's really about engaging the right kind of influencers, which reach an audience which has a relevance to you, where we're targeting the right kind of people. There is definitely, I agree, a trend of an increasing value of nano and micro influencers. That's also because what we see in everyday life, we are believing what the other person is saying. So just convert what we are doing in real life to the digital world, and that's the increasing relevance of these people who are genuinely using a product, who are genuinely understanding and sharing their own experiences across.
Yeah, Pradeep, just to add, I would not rule out the usage of, very big influencers also, if the objective is so. If you really want to create that buzz about something really happening, a launch or something, a big thing that you want to really announce to the digital world, and you want people to really quickly take note of that, then of course these very, very big influencers do the job. But if your
Sure.
objective is different, right? Like if you're wanting to get into the consideration set of people, if you're trying to influence them to take certain action, whatever, then of course, and you're willing to work a little slower, right? But more consistently, then of course the smaller influences would work.
So just to
Good
give an
point. Good
example,
point,
you know, we
Archana. Guys, let's move further. I think there are several other questions. You will get a chance to speak again. So, just summarizing this, I would say round one, all of you are winners. So, what you have said overwhelming is in favor of nano and micro, and what you said is sharper segmentation. I'm just putting some short words: sharper segmentation, better personalization, and better impact. So that's this first round. All of you are winners, and as is micro and nano, are macro and nano influencers. So moving to something which Archana had mentioned. So it's about measurement. I think measurement is a very important thing, and we all sometimes grapple with it. Sometimes we are able to convince ourselves and our companies that it's all is well. Sometimes we struggle with that. So now, in terms of influencers, different types of influencers, because that's the topic that we are discussing. Manan, let me pose this question to you, and then I'll come to one or two more people with the same question. Is that does either measurement change or your yardstick change when you are using different types of influencers? That's part one of the question. Part two of the question is that I know that in terms of overall, I think impact, you guys have told me that you prefer certain type of influencers, but in terms of overall ROI, return on investment, do you feel that micro and nano are better ROI in terms of results?
Yeah, so Pradeep, what we've always experienced is that when you're working with macro, you really can't use a yardstick. You'll have to basically rely on let's see how it goes, because most of the times these guys are not going to listen to you on how they will project it or how they will do something. So in most such cases, you'll have to, somewhere leave it to that. But yes, you can do certain amount of background work, like Archana mentioned. It's not about how many followers that they have, it's about the quality of engagement. And the first thing that I look at when we're looking at influencers to work with is the kind of comments that they get, not the number of likes that they get or views that they get or how many followers that they have. It's about the comments that they give. And that's where another point that I think Jasrita had mentioned was about the trust factor. And how much influence do they actually have, or are they just people who have a lot of following because they are a big name? And I think that's where the yardstick has to keep changing from different categories, because you can't use the same measurement or the same benchmarks with these different kinds of categories. So I think we're very conscious of that, on what to have our expectations set on when we are working with influencers. But yes, one thing that's common, like I said, is we always look at whether it's a nano, micro, macro, whatever quality or size of influencer. We always look for the quality of the comments that they get on their profile. And also, you have to obviously filter out which are actually genuine comments and which are just people that they know who are saying good things about them. One of the first things that I always look for is a comment that you'll see in most cases with influencers, and which is why I'm not such a big fan of influencer marketing, is one of the first primary comments that you'll see in most influencer cases is, how much did you get paid for this? And kitna paisa mila is the question where you really understand that people are aware. And I mean, I'm not saying people are dumb. It's fine, but it basically tells you how well they've integrated it, and that becomes the biggest measurement for me in terms of how great they are with integrating your product into their narrative. Whether you're working with a lifestyle influencer, whether you're working with a tech influencer like we do with a lot of people, that's one thing you have to obviously keep looking at, and that's what I meant by evolving, and that's how your measurement tools will also keep evolving, whether it's a yardstick or a mile stick. You'll have to keep varying that according to how the current category is and what kind of an influencer and what kind of expectations you've set over there.
Good. I think a very valid point. So what you are saying is reach versus actual real influence.
Yeah,
So
real
that's
influence is what you
yeah.
need to measure, whether it's cloud score or whatever else you can, find in terms of tools. But it's important to figure out that quality of reach also, and the quality of influence that they have also.
Yeah. Jasrita is nodding her head vigorously, so let me move to Jasrita now. Jasrita, so now, what's your experience? What kind of measurement do you use in terms of different types of influencers? Is it the same? Do you use different yardsticks?
So, like I said, Pradeep, that our experience, because of who we are, has been largely with micro and nano influencers. Okay, very little with macro, and as I said, mega is just not a fitment for us, right?
Yeah.
And I totally agree with Manan there that your yardstick does not change from a micro to a nano influencer, right? You have to look at what is the quality of engagement, how well entrenched they are in their communities, and how much of a real influence that they have on people, right? And often you would see often that the more spread out thin that they are, which means the higher the reach, okay, the lower is the depth, because practically not possible for an individual to have both width and depth. It is not possible, right? So for us, if it is a toss up between reach and the quality of engagement, right, we always err in the favor of quality of engagement, right? And so far it has helped us well. And also, I'd like to say that all that counts in life can often not be counted, right? And this I say as somebody who's a big believer in data driven marketing and in measurement tools. All that counts cannot be counted. And I'll just cite a small example here. We had the dancing Dadi, Ravi Bala Sharma, which a lot of people might know of, visit our community in Dehradun, right? And she's a perfect example of somebody who's living up her silver years, right? She was a school teacher, she retired, nondescript life. And post 60, she started dancing, and she's got her reels, which are endorsed by Diljit Dosanjh and everyone, right? So she visited the community in Dehradun, completely relevant to the kind of lifestyle and the promise that Antara has. And there she shot a reel for the Jugnu challenge by Badshah and tagged us. And then Badshah sort of spoke about it on his Instagram page, saying, "This is what I have earned in life," right? So now, how do you want to measure it, right? I mean, this is not something that was part of the deliverables when it was signed with her. This is something which came on as a very nice, multiplier effect later. So I think the more you would spend time in going after who are the real influencers, what's the real influence they have on the communities, how relevant they are to your brand, how much would your audiences resonate with it, the measurement that thereafter becomes just a cakewalk.
So you just narrated the 3 R's: relevance, reach, and resonance. I think, yeah, good and beautiful example, Jasrita. Thanks for that. Now moving back to, I had cut, I think Archana and Naina, they were raring to go. So let me go back to Naina now. So Naina, in terms of, when you help the brands that you work with choose the influencers, how do you do that? What is the process that you guys follow to arrive at the right set of influencers? We've heard from both Manan and Jasrita, and earlier from Harini, as to how they are choosing and making those choices. But from an agency perspective, how do you do that?
So a couple of factors go into this, right? First, we see which category and which field the client is from. Then we shortlist the influencers. We do kind of figure out what is the budget, what is the impact that they're looking at. We've run both sides of the campaign, as mentioned. One organically from the brand, mostly with mega influencers and macro influencers, and on the other side, really focusing on a mix of nano, micro, macro, depending on what their goals is. So we work with a lot of startups, and again, they're at that stage where they need that kind of guidance coming from us as well. So we sit with them, we figure out what are the goals, we define those goals, and then we try and see, okay, this is where your real influence lies, right? And the 3 R's, as mentioned, are the most important, because if you're if you're not really kind of going out to the relevant audience, if you don't have the influencer aligning with your brand product or the topic, it doesn't make sense. A person who has 1 million reach may not have the people who are actually your target at all. So that is the most important thing to first do is figure out what is it that may have a virality factor, right? So what is the content, what is the budget, and what is the objective? Then to define who are those people who will be the vehicles of your message ahead, who will actually create that kind of relatability amongst the audience. So it's a mix of things, and I still again come back on the content part, right? Like exactly what Jasrita said, that it was the person, it was the connect, and then it eventually led to something which was not measurable or which was not as a part of what was pre-decided, and it just happened. So we always have that scope of even a nano influencer's post going viral, right? That's the world we're living in today. So how do we create the right kind of, and no matter who we are engaging with, it's very important that that person is also a fit with our brand. Having someone who's posting 100 stories in the day where your product is just coming in as one snippet, just because they have a certain reach, is not going to get you anywhere. No, people will invariably just skip through a story or skip through that post. So it's important to balance it out. There are also sports that we do. So we go out on particular days. So for instance, one of our clients, any day related to fine jewelry, we just kind of go all out and make a noise because we want to do it around a certain segment of time. So the goal for that is different versus long term, where we're looking at multiple different people on an ongoing basis. And then once you work with those people, you know who's a fit for your brand, and then you continue working with them and exploring new ideas.
Okay, thanks, Nana. That was quite a comprehensive response. Manan, moving to you now, because you have in the past been quoted as saying that you want the ecosystem, especially the agencies, to play a much, I would say, deeper role as far as influencer management is concerned, where you spoke about the fact that choosing the influencer part is right. I think agencies do a good job of it, but you would want more work in terms of integration with what the brand stands for and what the influencer brings to the table. That integration sometimes falls apart, or there is more scope of improvement. So can you elaborate a bit on that?
Yeah, sure. Pradeep, what I meant and what I've always believed is that uh, influencers are creative people. Just like you have a copywriter or a graphic designer or an art director in your agency. These are people who are creators, right? They need to be handheld better. So currently, what I've seen in most cases is that influencer marketing agencies are able to get you influencers. They're able to identify which are the right influencers for you. They're able to crack a great deal with them also. But I don't think the buck stops over there. Their job is actually supposed to evolve into becoming you know handlers for these creators, helping the brand reach the influencer better, understanding how you can reduce the incidence of questions like how much did you get paid for this. And that's, I think, the responsibility of an agency, to manage that relationship, to give them feedback on the kind of creative or the content that they're making, so that the agency can give them perspective from a larger macro scope, because they are looking at social media and they're looking at many other influencers, and they're aware of what kind of content works. Somewhere, with nano and micro influencers, you need to have better talent management rather than just identifying and cracking a deal with them. uh, I think that's something that a lot of agencies have started doing, but I think there's a lot more that this category needs to evolve in, for brands to invest more heavily on this segment. I think right now that's one thing that I feel is really a work in progress, and that's where I feel that if you're able to guide these people better, uh, you know it's a win-win situation for all of us.
Good, thanks, Manan. Good point that you made is basically, brand integration and the influencer have to, they have to come closer to each other, understand each other
Yeah.
better, and that's the role that you want the agencies
I
to
mean,
play
there are so
better.
many. There are so many such examples where products can be beautifully integrated into whether it's an Instagram reel or Insta live or whatever else. I mean, there are so many beautiful ways of doing it. But hey, I have a message from my sponsor is probably the most you know stone age way of doing it.
Yeah,
Or
I think
the
it
moment people
defeats
are
the
able to
purpose completely.
when your conversation flow breaks because you want to integrate a brand or some message that the brand has, that's where you killed it, completely, and not in the nice way
Sure.
killed it, but I think that's the hand holding, that's the guidance that agencies need to give, as a value add to their clients.
Sure, sure. Let me shift gears and move to Harini. Harini, the auto industry influencer game has really exploded in the last decade or so. I remember, my agency days, maybe 12, 15 years ago, there used to be these corporate journalists and then those trade journalists who knew something or the other, some deep insights into what the car or the bike used to be.
Yeah.
But then now it has become like, every person has become a YouTuber. There are like hundreds of these YouTubers who make videos every day and put it on YouTube. And then obviously there are the media, and then there are the other people who go deep into technology and everything. So how do you manage this plethora of influencers? And one question before you even answer that is, how many influencers do you really work with, in the sense that you may not be engaging into proactively, but how many people do you track as influencers for your brand, and how do you manage that?
Yeah, so like you mentioned, so we have like I mean, say the journalists who cover auto, and then the trade, which is like purely the print and online. Again, we have a mix, and then the third category, influencers, clearly. So I mean, it's a huge gamut actually. I mean, there's one launch of a product, and if it is a very tech heavy product or something, you have like I mean, even before we do the seeding outreach, there would be like like 100 of video that is already surfaced. So and from an outreach point of view, we do keep in, I mean, it's not like for every product everybody is a fit kind of thing. So but ongoing, we, like I mentioned, because we have that spread and like different avenues. If it is not really product related, or if there is something that we want to do on CSR, I mean on sustainability or something like that, so we can try and engage in different spheres. So like like the gamut is huge, Pradeep, as in, I don't think I would want to put a number to it. Like it's really this one. So yeah, I mean, the way the narrative also gets created is also very interesting, because one person would have gone and seen it, and he would have said that no, this is not what I want. I mean, why is it so expensive? This, they have not given this, they have not given that kind of thing. In such an instance, it becomes like a challenge to because then that is the narrative that it gets done. So that is why we need to I mean, we have to track everybody once we have engaged with them, because otherwise, like especially in the auto thing, I mean, otherwise your narrative just can go haywire. But the interesting thing is like it's not just auto that we kind of try and engage. It's like a lot of other I mean influencers also we engage with, say, food bloggers. I mean, depending on the product, and wherever the smart integrations can be done, we would engage with them as well. So I mean, the by, like Manan said, it can go anywhere, as long as you don't bring them to the track, and then that like this is my what I wanted kind of thing. But yeah, the engagement wise, again, like I would say that it always is a mix that works for us. Like we use Mega also, and this one also. The kind of things we really look at when we are going further with the relation is also the what are the things they bring in also, like the very colloquial way of sometimes they addressing each of the products, saying that why it is a good fit for you. For example, they'll say that I mean say probably if it is a hilly terrain, and they say that why is this product helping you? Because it has like a, like, where you can, if you apply the brake, there is, the reverse, the bike would not go, this one, so it will help you to. So I'm not saying that the macro influencers won't do it, but in the true flavor, when these guys do it,
Sure.
right, it really creates this one, and the kind of engagement like Manan mentioned, it will be amazing. Like, they say that, okay, fine, does it have an engine kill switch here? Like, I mean, you would have all those things he would have mentioned, but again they will go back and engage that particular conversation, saying that yes, it is there and it doesn't there, or like,
Harini, sorry,
that
I
that
have to interrupt you now because we have, Anubhuti is pinging me. I have to just bring Archana once back. We heard Manan speak about what the expectations from the agencies are. Archana, I'm going to put you on spot and ask you what your expectations from the brands are.
So I mean, brands do, the brands that we worked with have allowed. So of course there is an expectation which is, the objective, sort of, so to say, is given to us, and we've had the freedom to. Manan accepted that the agencies do a good job of out of choosing the influencers, and being in the digital space where we also do so much measurement led work in so many other functions of digital. uh, we are a true yeah, fan of being able to measure something. We would definitely not go by the number of followers someone has, and I'm just trying to quickly, because Anubhuti is 3 minutes, I can see. We were, when we were doing these influencer thing with studs, we had a mandate to do only 2 influencers, but we would choose that influencer, and we would, when we signed a deal with them, an agreement, we said that we will have the right to look at the content and approve the content, and only when we approve that content were they allowed to really post. So I think that will address, Manan, your apprehension, what
So,
kind of
Archana, you are not supposed to respond to Manan.
I am
You're
just
supposed to
saying that,
tell what your
agencies can do
expectations
that.
from brands are.
Agencies, yeah, we as agencies can do that, and I feel like brands do give us the leeway when they sign up with agencies. I feel like we've always had that
So,
leverage.
Archana is too much of a salesperson to say anything uh,
Against
strong
the brand.
against the brand. So I will cut you here. Okay, now summarizing. Basically, Nano from Tata didn't do well, but Nano and Micro are ruling the roost as far as influencers are concerned. It is quality over quantity, and it is about real influence over reach. So, if I have to summarize this discussion, that's what my takeaway is. Thank you so much for your time, and I think it's been a beautiful, wonderful discussion. I hope that everybody else has got the same feedback. Anubhuti is here. She's going to kick us out. Over to you, Anubhuti.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Pradeep. A very, very engaging session indeed. Thank you, panelists, Archana, Harini, Jasrita, Manan, and Naina.